Hello and welcome. It's ChubbyRay Comics Live Roundtable. I am your host, ChubbyRay, and with me, America's sweetheart. Here he is, everybody. Dom of X. How you doing, Dom?
I'm flattered by the nickname. I don't know if I'd call myself that, but I'd like to thank you for taking the time to chat with me and also inviting me. I really appreciate it.
It's good to see you, man. I'm really glad you agreed to do this. It's awesome. As you know, I'm a big fan of yours. I love when we do the solicit show together. I always have a blast.
Same.
And I wanted to make sure that you were one of the first people I had on Roundtable, and I appreciate you saying that you do it. That's awesome. I want to start with, I always start with the same question. Could you please tell us your comics origin story? How did you first get into comics? How old were you? Who helped you get into it? Please give us the story because for starters, you're not that old. So please give us your comics origin story.
My history is, if you want to even call it semi-complicated, because I started watching the TV shows or whatever was on Cartoon Network or Boomerang first, just because that's what was on every single Saturday morning, Saturday night. I know that it's probably different for a lot of the folks who grew up in the 90s, but for me, it was like, hey, I have to see Batman Brave and the Bold on television. I grew up with Young Justice, but when I was in kindergarten, we went back to the Philippines, and just, I guess, for context, I visit my family about every 3.5, 4 years or so. And it's typically mandatory because, as people also probably know, I don't have enough money to pay for plane tickets, but it's always something that I look forward to every single time, just to say hi to the aunties, uncles, or titos or titas in Tagalog. And my uncle and my mom went shopping at something called SM Mall of Asia, which is one of the largest mall chains in the Eastern Orient area of the world. They also have the third largest mall in the world. And we went over to Metro Manila, and my uncle said, just wait, look, you want to go to a bookstore? Do you want to look around? And I said, sure. I don't know what to expect. And as a kid, the only things I wanted to read were dinosaur books, and I liked the human body. I also asked my mom for health books, and since a couple of my cousins wanted to be nurses, we're like, oh hey, like let's go find me some books. My uncle came out of the bookstore with a brown bag, and in that brown bag were issues of Jeff Johns' Green Lantern, because he was also reading it, on his own. And he told me, you're going to have the time of your life reading these books. And even as like a kindergartner, somebody who didn't have a completely sophisticated view of the world yet, I was like, you know what? They got green rings. They look like they're punching people. So sure, like this looks really cool. And since then, it has been essentially nonstop of, hey, like which family member are going to give me comics. When the New 52 hit, my cousin, who now lives in the States, she lives in Texas, gifted me a couple of New 52 trade paperbacks and the tiny standard hardcovers. And amongst those were Jeff Johns' Justice League volumes 1 and 2. So I had Origin and Villain's Journey. And then I had the City and Court of Owls gifted to me by my cousin too, with Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo run. And I just kept reading those like all day, all night, because I didn't know how else to get my hand on it. And how would I? Because I was like 11, 12 at the time. I didn't know. I obviously couldn't buy things on my own. I always had to ask my parents for help and support. But every single time that I would meet my cousin or somebody else from my family, they'd always give me a New 52 trade paperbacks of random, like big team or big solo character books. And that's just how I kept in. And since then, I graduated high school, got into college, found out that I had a comic shop like 30 minutes away from me, and also like 2 minutes away from my college, which was convenient. And I've been picking up singles and collected editions since then.
So how long has it been since you started purchasing books for yourself?
9 years.
9 years. God, that's impressive. Because when I found out I knew you were young because you look young, But when I found out how young you were, I was blown away. When you take your age compared to the knowledge that you have for comic books, it is you in order to have that knowledge, you must have read a lot of books. I mean, when did you start going back and saying, "Oh, I have to read this stuff, like stuff from 30 years ago." When did you get into that?
In 2018, DC dropped a subscription called, at that time, DC Universe. It's now DC Universe Infinite,
Okay.
but it used to be called DC Universe. And on the app, they not only had a whole bastion and collection of comics that you could flip through, read through, but they also had all of the TV shows that were airing, like Doom Patrol, Titans, Swamp Thing. So they had brand new originals that you could only watch on that service. But they also had all of the old TV shows that I watched when I was a kid, and all of the TV shows that I never got to watch just because I didn't grow up in that area. But they also had, and they still have it to this day, but when you go to the comics tab on DC Universe, they have like a highlighted section of, hey, this is a really big story or arc or event for the DC Universe or these characters. And I was like, hey, these are the things that some of my online friends or forums are saying you should go out and read this. And so I kept through with reading all of the stuff before like 2007, 2008, right around that area, through DC Universe. So if I didn't have enough money to go to my comic shop and say buy a deluxe edition or trade paperback of, I don't know, let's just say Kingdom Come. If I didn't have money to do that, and I didn't have a lot of money then, it was pretty much like, am I going to be buying Burger King or am I going to be buying a trade paperback today? It was, I'm going to go read this on DC Universe DC Universe and finish it there and then give out my thoughts to whoever it was I was talking at that point. And I still use DC Universe Infinite to this day. It was a pretty cheap membership. I would always pick that, say, over a random streaming service because it had all the DC shows. And it was cheaper than some like Tidal and a couple of other music subscription services too. So for me as a college student who was living off like an allowance and still does, I needed to figure out and ask myself, like, what is it do I want to focus on and what do I want to spend my money on that particular week? And it was typically, hey, go buy yourself a comic book.
And it was what, $10 a month or whatever?
Like $8 when it first started.
Like it was under $10 a month. And that's unlimited comics of just
Yep.
And so you would like how many hours a day do you think you would read?
2 to 3, man. Like once I was done with homework, it was, hey, I got to chill in my bed. In my high school, everybody got an iPad. I bought out the iPad for or my mom did anyways. My mom bought out the iPad for $100. That's literally all I was doing. After homework's finished or after I finished studying for whatever class it was I was taking, go on my bed, just enjoy a random DC comic and fall into a different world than the one that we're living in right now.
And you, so, and it was all DC.
All DC. Oh, for the most part, anyways. I didn't get into Marvel until 2020 or 2019, but it was all DC up until a very big certain point in my life.
And how did you get into Marvel? Like, what was the?
Was
it online or
no? I have a friend. His name is John over at my comic book shop, and John has been a regular at my shop since the shop pretty much opened back in the 80s. And I remember telling him, because DC had the Year of the Villain event going on, and I was buying all of the Year of the Villain tie-ins, and I wasn't enjoying myself as much as I thought, because it was weird, man. You had all these tie-ins where Lex Luthor is giving all of these villains in their books power-ups. Hey, Black Manta, and Kelly Sue DeConnick's Aquaman. Here's a gift to you. Go beat Aquaman, please. And I was like, man, I don't know if I'm liking this as much as I should. So I remember talking to John, and I told him, "Hey man, I just don't know if DC is giving me the sauce. It just doesn't feel right." John then put a copy of House of X #1 in my hands, and he said, "Buy this, go to the front counter, and let me know how much you enjoy it when I see you next week." I went next week and I said, "I don't know what this is, but you need to give me more." Like that last page where Magneto, anybody who hasn't read it, he's talking to a couple of council members with the UN, and he gives them a demonstration saying like, "Hey man, you have like some insiders amongst yourselves. You can't just do whatever it is that you want to. Like, we have legitimacy here." And then he says the line like, "You have new gods now." I was like, I have no idea what the heck I'm doing here, but I need more, because I'd never read an X-Men comic in my life. Like, I've watched some of the X-Men films, but I had never, like, I'd watched Logan, I've watched Wolverine, I've watched like X-Men 1, 2, but I didn't read any of the comics. And I was just so shocked at just how cool that comic could be, like the world building of it, all the characters, the interactions. I told myself like I needed to see more of that. And so I started slowly like moving, I guess, my way out of buying a whole bunch of DC just to try, hey, like what is the other company offering? A company that I'm a lot less familiar or a lot less familiar with at the time. I'm very much more familiar with them now, but just want to see like, hey, what they were doing. And I picked up, I started collecting Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil on issue like 11 at that point. And then a couple of other books. Like in the meantime, like I tried out Dan Slott's Iron Man, which wasn't my favorite, but yeah, there was a lot of Marvel that had me intrigued at the time, and I'm really glad that I stepped out of my comfort zone and figured, hey, like I want to try something brand new out, even if it's only for a while. I also probably wouldn't be where I am today at this point if it hadn't been for my buddy John giving me House of X #1.
You're into DC and Marvel at the same time. When did you decide to start sharing your thoughts about comics? When did you become a comic content creator? I mean, when did you? I don't know if it was a podcast or a YouTube show or what. When did you first start getting into the space of letting your thoughts about comics be known?
My buddy at the comic shop who also worked there, he still works there. His name is Dylan. He used to be the top marketer over at Top Cow under Image, but they laid off, unfortunately, a lot of people because COVID had happened. And I got a message from him, and it was him and another buddy of his who had this website where they hosted a podcast for pretty much every single topic on pop culture. It didn't matter if it was video games, movies, particular genres of books. He wanted an X-Men show to run. This is, mind you, this is in 2020. And I'm over here. I have bought up until that point, and I still did, every single issue from the 2019 through 2024 era of Marvel with Krakoa. And I was buying every single X-Men book at the time, and they told me, "Do you want to do an X-Men podcast?" And I was like, you know what? I'm stuck inside my house. I have nothing better to do. Everything's online. I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and try it out. I have no idea how this is going to work, but let's see what happens as far as this show. So I start this X-Men podcast. We went up to 35 episodes, but it kind of lost steam right around the time that Jonathan Hickman left. And I was still buying all the X-Men comics, but I was just like, you know what? This isn't working out. I told our producer, I really appreciate the 1-2 years that you've given me a platform to run, but I don't know if I want to continue doing this. And 2 years later, I was like, you know what? I want to do YouTube stuff because we also hosted a show on my YouTube channel. But it didn't do as well as I wanted it to. Not like all the people who were watching were people from my comic show or my comic store. I didn't have anybody like else online that, hey, like we're tuned in regular listeners. It was pretty much like a localized thing. It wasn't up until, I mean, we can talk about this later. It wasn't up until I got in contact with Omar that I decided to say, you know what? I have a voice and I can use it. I have thoughts on these comic books. Why can't I just start doing stuff with him and others and also on my own?
So you reached out to Omar.
So here's the story behind that.
Oh, Omar, by the way, Omar is the connecting rod for all of us. I noticed when I had OmniDog in, it was the same way. There's pre-Omar life and post-Omar life.
Yeah, I know. It's like it's the inflection point in the timeline of this universe. A buddy of mine online, I love him to death. He's one of my best friends, one of the best characters that I know in this world. I remember him texting me on a Sunday. It was like January 2024. So keep in mind, this is like a couple of months before I was about to graduate with 2 separate degrees in the business field. And he texts me and he's like, hey, I want you to watch this. And it was a clip from a Saturday show where Omar was talking for about 2-3 minutes saying, oh man, I feel really exhausted. I need some help. It would be really cool if there was another person helping me on this channel for stuff. I don't know if it was like him being burnt out. I don't know like what the reason or feeling that he had in that moment was. I don't know if it was, I have no idea what it was, but all I know is that I heard those words and I was like, oh, is he looking for extra help or stuff to do on the channel? And Justin said that he would, or the person, I guess, he asked Omar, hey, like, do you actually need help on this or whatever? So then my friend gave me the contact information to Omar and said, email him, send him that clip, and say that I'm interested in helping out. And I was like, okay. So I emailed him and I was like, I have no idea what specifically you need, but whatever it is you want to do, I'm going to go ahead and run through it. So we had a pretty long meeting. It was about a 1.5 hour meeting on StreamYard because he was just asking, because I'd never met him before. And keep in mind too, I have been watching Omar since I got out of high school. Like Google, like StreamYard, like Google Hangouts Omar, when he was still talking with Lou and Jess. That's the omnibus man that I knew like growing up as a kid. So to me, this is kind of like, hold on a minute. I've been watching you throughout the entirety of the pre-pandemic and pandemic world. Like you were one of my like the top channels I'm watching, and I'm talking with him. And I'm like, I have no idea if I should even be in this situation right now, because I'm like, I have no idea what he's expecting out of me. And I told him like, hey, like these are some things that I can run. What do you need help on? And it was pretty much an instant connection since then. I figured out that he needed a lot of help on thumbnail making, graphic design, slideshows, some live streams that he wanted to do, just never had the time to, and I helped him sort of get through that. And you fast forward a couple months later, and it was, well, I didn't know that he actually needed help out with these things, some more behind the scenes stuff. But ever since then, it's been more and more like, hey, like this is the world that he's living in. Then you get, and then he says, hey, I want to, continue to not only work with you, but work closer. Now I'm on NMC payroll. I've been on NMC payroll for the last 2 years, just doing whatever it is he needs me to do. If it's a thumbnail that needs to be made, if he needs a video edited, or if there's a particular book. Now I remember pitching him the idea that, hey, we have a really cool line called DC Finest coming out. And at that point, Omar was just had too much work to do stuff or whatever. But he talked with some of the people behind, and he was like, hey, can Dom legitimately do this? And ever since then, it's just been an exponential ride of responsibilities handed off to me, just because He's way too busy nowadays with, again, all the people that he's contacting, all the stuff that he's reading. He edits all like
he does
90% of the
interviews
videos.
and
Yeah.
interviews and content every day. So when did you learn a graphic design? I mean, how old were you when you started learning Photoshop type things?
I was 14 years old when I took a beginning graphics design course because I switched high school. So I guess for context, I went to a K through 12 school from first grade to eighth grade because my parents wanted me to be there. And I told my parents, like, I think it would really benefit me for me to go to an actual high school than a simple like K through 12 private school. So I went to a high school. I saw that they had beginning graphic design and like beginning video editing. So I took those two courses my freshman year because I'm like, oh yeah, these are really cool. These are interesting to me. And because of that, I took an advanced design course at my high school. And for my electives, at least very on in college, I learned beginner's animation or like introduction to animation for one class. And I took 2 extra graphic design courses to knock out some general eds. And I've been using all of the Adobe suite since. I also want to give a shout out to my high school teacher because for 8 years of my life, from 2014 through 2022, he paid for my entire Adobe suite every single month.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was actually really cool. So yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm going to use Premiere. I'm going to use Illustrator, InDesign, Animate, all of the different tools in Adobe. I might as well because I'm on somebody else's payroll. Like I'm not getting it for free. And yeah, I owe a lot to my high school teacher for that. He was one of the chillest guys. He really helped me understand fundamentals of design. He also helped me out with I had a YouTube channel even before I became a comic content creator. I used to do videos on the Madden NFL games.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
I got up to and the only reason that I was even mildly successful was because my high school teacher just showed me all the different tricks and hey, this is what you can do in Photoshop, this is what you can do in Illustrator, and how to make a logo, make these players on the thumbnails look better. I got it to 1,000 subs, and well, I haven't been playing Madden much, so obviously like that channel is dead. But this, again, keep in mind, like this was 10 years ago, but I am eternally grateful for my high school teacher.
He must have seen, he must have seen something in you. He must have said, this kid's got something. I mean, why else would he choose to help you out unless he saw that it was going to be, that there would be, that there would be some kind of return to the investment. Not financially, but the return being this kid has a chance to do something big. You know what I mean? I think it's wonderful he did that.
Yeah. I don't know like what it was that I guess motivated him to, because Adobe is not cheap. Whatever the enterprise tag was on my subscription for those 8 years, it's stuff where I'm like, man, I could have shelled out hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars in that time frame. Dollars that I could have been using on food. Maybe it's, I don't know, some random comic I bought in 2021 that I didn't even know that I couldn't have paid for if I was paying for Adobe Photoshop or After Effects or something like that. So it's nice just to, I guess, have the blessings of so many people who have been able to prop me up in the situation that I am right now. Yeah, it's insane to think that like you have different people in your life that just manage to fall in at the right time at the perfect spot. And my high school teacher was definitely one of them.
Speaking of people propping you up, let's get to your parents. So your parents are originally from the Philippines?
Yep. I was born in the Philippines too.
When did they come to the United States?
We moved in 2004.
So were you born in the Philippines or were you born here in the States?
Born in the Philippines.
And then you were an infant when they traveled over here?
Yep.
Wow.
I didn't start speaking full English until I was 7.5 years old. I kid you not, Ray. I remember being in preschool and my teacher saying, hey, like what types of shoes are people wearing? I'm like, I heard shoe, but I'm like, what do you mean by type of shoe? So I wore Velcros up until 2nd grade because I just had really bad uncoordinated hands at that point.
You couldn't tie your shoes, yeah.
Yeah, I just could not tie my shoes. So I'm over here in preschool. I'm like, I have no idea what he means by tied or Velcro. And I was like one of only 3 kids that day who was wearing Velcro. And I also had, it was mutual. I had a crush on somebody else in preschool, and they were like, they had tied shoes. So I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'll follow you because I don't know what anything else that's going on. And I went to the tied shoe. Man, everybody was berating me. They were like, "Are you stupid? Do you not know what Velcro and tied shoes are?" Like, I'm like, I have no idea what any of these words are.
What is this word tied? What does that mean?
Right.
So that is funny that you know, because my grandparents are from Mexico,
Mhm.
and I was born in Chicago, and my mother had to work, so my grandparents would watch me. So
Mhm.
my first language was Spanish,
Right.
because they spoke Spanish, and that's what I learned. And I didn't learn English until we moved from Chicago to downstate Illinois. And I remember, and I stuttered. I didn't stutter in Spanish, but I stuttered in English, and getting in front of the mirror and practicing consonants and stuff. Now, by the way, I don't remember anything in Spanish. I can't even put a sentence together. My daughter's fluent in it, but I can't. I'm terrible. Do you still remember your?
I it's very broken, but I still speak it to my parents and a lot of people around me all the time because I am in a.
And your parents still speak?
Oh, dude, my dad and mom. That's it's the household language. Like
Wow.
it's crazy because I don't want to get too much into it, but my younger brother, he's also he was born here, but he's actually fluent in our native language. So I'll hear him talking all the time, and it's like the best that you can. Like, there's no stutters. There's no what word am I trying to say next? Like it's at the snap of his fingers.
Wow.
And I'm here like, what?
How old is he?
He is about to be graduating high school.
Good for him. But you know enough still to where you can understand it?
I can fully understand it, but I cannot speak a lick. Now, if I go back to the Philippines, it's probably going to be a completely different scenario because there's a lot of people in my family who are not, they don't understand English at all. Like I kid you not, man, every single time that I go back, there's always one or two family members that try to speak in English because they're like, hey, does this kid still know what we're saying? And I speak.
You want to make it easy for you.
Sure, but I and then like I'll speak a completely fluent language, like sentence in my home language, and they're like, "Wait, so you can speak to and then we all have a laugh." So it's nice.
So they you don't have an accent at all, though. Your English is fantastic. I mean,
I have an accent. Though, keep in mind, I have the Western California.
I mean, you have a Bay Area accent.
Yeah, right? Yeah. You can tell that I'm from California.
Yeah, but you have no other accent.
Yeah, yeah. My dad still has his. I don't.
That's pretty cool, though. And your brother doesn't have an accent when he speaks English?
No. Well, I mean, he was also born and raised here, so
that's what I mean. I just think it's. I think people who have more than one language, I just think the world of it. And I'm angry because I don't remember any of my Spanish. And I wish I did. I wish my father though was Scottish, Dutch or something, whatever he is. So, my mother and father spoke English in the house. But like I said, when I was with my grandparents, they spoke Spanish. And so you said that your parents would take you guys back to the Philippines for vacations and stuff.
Yep.
But that's got to be expensive, right? I mean, because that's got to be.
My mom is a very hardworking individual who gets a lot of money, so it's no problem for. I mean, I'm going to be going to Japan in less than 2 months, like about a month from today, and the plane's nice. We've got nice hotels, so I'm very blessed to be part of a family.
So your parents are smart, is what you're saying. You said your parents are very intelligent.
My mom is one of the smartest people that I know, and also the most hardworking person that I know in the world.
Well, you're a smart. I've noticed in the time I've known you, you are very intelligent. yes, you're a comic geek like me, and I love that. I love that we have that in common, but also you have above and beyond that. You're destined for greatness. I mean, you got, and I know I've teased you about that, but you are destined to do some big things. You're in masters. You're going for your masters right now in in some form of business, right?
Business analytics, yeah.
See, yeah, you're gonna do something that'll make a lot of money. I hope the comic community does not lose you. You know what I mean? Because
they'll never take me away.
I'm just saying you're at that age where you're gonna graduate with you'll eventually get a big degree, then you're gonna get a big job, and then you're gonna end up getting in a relationship, and then who knows, marriage. And I'm just wondering, when are we in the comic community going to lose Dom?
I don't think you're going to lose me. You know, if there's one thing that I've learned over the last 2.5 years of having worked with Omar and all of the amazing people that I've collaborated with, this community, the people who read all of these books get to chat about all the comics with me, even though I self-admittedly wish that I just had more time to respond and chat with more of the community. They have been, like, people here have been so amazing in the way that they've welcomed me with open arms to talking about whatever comic it is that I'm discussing. Maybe it's even to the extent of like, hey, maybe I'm talking about a video game or something else like that. I don't know if I want to ever throw that away. It's just like this combination of all of the people who watch my videos, whether it is on near mint condition or watching me through a live stream or on my own channel where I talk about all of these books that are coming out or have come out, or books that I'm just like, hey, I remember reading this, or even all of the comic book creators that I've had not only the opportunity to be able to talk to about their work, but also now being fortunate enough to call some of them my friends, like actual friends that I can email or like text, like, hey, like what's going on? Like, do you want to chat or this and that? It's just something like the emotional connection there. Why would I ever want to throw that away? Even in a world where, yeah, sure, I might be working the good old 8-10 hour job, just figuring out like, hey, like how much energy am I going to be sapping into this project or whatever it is I'm going to be doing.
Well, you're how far away from your master's degree?
Oh, about a year away.
Okay. So you're about to enter that stage where, and your grades are good, I imagine.
I have straight A's right now.
They have absolutely. You're all right. You are. I'll just listen. I went to school. I initially started going to school I wanted to go for political science. And when I got my political science degree, I was going to go to law school. But I started doing stand-up comedy and getting into entertaining. So I switched to communications for radio. Okay. And I was going through, and in the last year, I was basically recruited to get into radio.
Sure.
Now, this is not business analytics like you, but for what's going to happen with you is in your last year of schooling, companies are going to start recruiting you. And that's when life's going to get very interesting. And that's when I'm worried about you being stolen away. When you start realizing, oh my God, when you start getting those paychecks and you're realizing, okay, and if I excel in this, it's going to be this much money. I'm fearful that it's going to get to a point where you're going to go, okay, I can do my comic stuff, or I can do blah, 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 and get a bonus worth this much money. I don't want to lose you. I want you to remember those of us in the comic world, so that you're still around and still with us.
No, man. I don't think you ever have to worry about that, Ray. Good. It's, again, everything that I've been doing for the last 2 years has just been such an amazing blessing and opportunity to do that. I mean, like, well, when I started, I didn't imagine that it was going to be this. And honestly, like when I first contacted Omar, I didn't think that any of what's happened in the last 2 years was going to happen. But
you said that you were able to create thumbnails. I mean, that was probably the biggest I bet for him that was a big pain in the ass, and now all of a sudden he's got somebody that can do it. That you probably made a big difference in his life. I mean, I know Omar thinks the world of you because, you know, just in my interactions with him, I've never heard him say anything that was even close to anything cross about you. It's always, you know, you could tell he thinks the world of you.
And I'm flattered by that. And honestly, like, again, like, all of this is adage for me. And I'm like, you don't, like, when I go into any of this, and honestly, like, again, just with everything that I'm doing right now, like, not only just like in the comics landscape, but also personal stuff, whether it be school, you know, like, it does take a lot out of you. But I always remember that I'm fortunate enough to be in this position. Like, how many people in whatever this life get the chance to be able to talk and discuss about their favorite hobby on a basis where you get to share that with so many different people, and also just manage to make videos on it, videos that, you know, that people will tune in and continue to watch and interact with. It's again, like, it's all a blessing for me. It's never anything of like, you know, like, I finally made it here or there. Oh man, like, you get a chance to live every single day, and that extra day that you have, go out, do something positive, make it special for somebody else, and appreciate the fact that you're here and alive. And I've been attempting to live by those standards ever since I graduated high school. I don't want that to change. Even if, again, like, you know, I finally get the job, whatever it is that I want, every single day is a brand new opportunity to do something for somebody else. And I think that if you live by those standards of thankfulness, gratitude, I think anybody is going to have a positive outlook on life that way.
You will share things. I don't even know if you know it, but there have been times where you will talk about hashtags or something backstage or having a conversation. You will mention things that, I mean, I certainly don't think of. You know, my channel started as very small, and it's in the process of starting to, you know, I mean, I didn't think I'd ever have 100 subscribers. Now it's at almost 5,000. But your brain works like you've mentioned before. Oh, well, you got a hashtag, blah, blah, blah. And it was one of those things I'm like, what? And when you said it, I realized, oh yeah, why don't I try that hashtag? Used it, and boom. Your mind works in a way that a lot of people's don't. I mean, you seem to understand the world of, I don't know if it's algorithm or analytics or what, but you say, oh, well, if you hashtag this, blah, you know, just, and when you explain things, oh my God, it ends up making sense. I mean, your mind works that way. And I'm telling you, me and guys my age, we don't understand that stuff. And the fact that you're willing to just share that is really something. So, you know, I think that's why you're such a gift to the comic community, and that's why we don't want to lose you.
I promise you won't, Ray.
Okay. All right. I want to get in comic releases. How did comic releases come about? Was that your creation, or was it somebody else's idea where they added you to it?
So Webhead has been at the head of comicreleases.com. Well, he was the guy who started running a show back 2020 was when the site opened. And at that point, just to not get too long into the backstory of how I got to the contact, I was just trying to find, I'll just say I was part of a Teen Titans community that did not appreciate, I guess, my opinions on things. You know how fandom can be when stuff gets territorial very easily. Yeah. And I just wanted a spot where I can just, I guess, chillax and not worry about it. So I joined an omnibus group that my friend in Taiwan messaged me about, and he said, hey, the server seems pretty cool. And he buys omnibuses. Like, my friend is, oh man, like, if you think like I'm the guy running, like, my friend over in Taiwan, he's over here like learning 2 different coding languages every single year just to get by. But He's like, "Yeah, just enter the server." And sometimes, like, I don't do this now, but I used to do it when I was in like late high school, early college. Just see like, hey, who are the moderators? Say hi, like give them what's up. And he was not one of the moderators, but it was in an omnibus collecting Discord server. I just said like, hey, what's up? Like, what's going on? Like, I hope you're doing well. It's my first time here. Just wanted to drop by and give a greeting. And Webhead was like, yeah, I'm doing okay. And we had a really, really long conversation about what books we've been reading. Cause we're trying to find like common ground, I guess, right? As the start of any friendship goes. And in that same conversation, he also somehow managed to convince me that trade paperbacks were not the way. And it's a lot easier to get into the omnibus side of it rather than everything else. Pretty much the only hardcovers that I was collecting up to that point were the smaller Marvel ones, like the 10 issue deluxe. They didn't call them deluxes, but the oversized hardcovers. I always collect like 10 or 12 issues. And then like I had 10 of Swords. I had 10 of Swords in House of X in hardcover format. So those were things that we were just talking about. He was like, you should do that for everything, not just those. I'm like, okay, that's fair enough, I guess. And then we had a conversation about the website, because I started using cr.com. It was at its very like infantile early stages up at that point, where we didn't have we only had information on particular omnibuses for the big two and a couple of deluxe hardcovers, but not anything too special. And he talked about, oh man, I remember us calling and it was like, I gotta do these Marvel and DC solicits. And as you probably know, Marvel and DC, not only for the collected editions, they put out a heck of a ton of singles too.
Yeah.
And so he talked to me about take him like 8 hours to do it in a day, just to place everything in there. And I said, can I do those? And he was like, why do you want to do those? They take up 1 billion hours of time. It's going to be a waste of whatever. And he showed me how to do them. Because I told him, like, this looks fun. He was like, you are a psychopath, but sure, I'll let you do them. I'm not kidding. Like, those were the words. Those were the words he said. And I had such a fun time doing that, and him teaching me SQL. That Webhead is actually how I learned the SQL coding language. Overall, so shout out to Webby for helping me get an A in that class eventually later down the line. I learned how to clean up the site, just so much to the point where he was like, "Do you just want to be the co-site owner?" And this was about, again, a couple of months after the site had opened. And since then, we have managed to expand the database to pretty much every single comic publisher and every single trade paperback and hardcover, absolute edition, whatever that piece of cardboard is, we have it on the site. And just fine tune it to a point where we can make everything accessible. You don't have to be a technology whiz to use it. You can just look at the spreadsheet, and we have become like the number 2 site for solicitations. And I find that really, really enlightening, just overall, like the last 6 years of building all of that up. And Webhead's also one of the other people in my life that I would not be at the position I were at had it not been for him. I owe a lot to that guy.
I go to comicreleases.com because you guys you keep up on the changes too. Like if they move the date of when something's coming out, you guys are right on top of it. There are other sites they're still saying, oh, this is coming out this week, when we know it's not coming out until whatever date. And when did Omar decide, all right, Dom's my DC guy, I'm gonna go ahead and put him in charge of this? Just from the aspect of, everybody jokes, especially on my site. We joke about Omar and his suit because I say it all the time. I love when I see Omar in a suit because I get excited. Omar's in a suit. Here comes an announcement about the Marvel stuff. And now Omar has, and I know you guys, you don't have, Omar said you don't have exclusivity for the announcements like you do with the Marvel stuff. But you guys do announce DC. You do announce DC releases. And in fact, we were doing a solicit show once. That's what I was joking. I was saying, when am I going to see Dom in a suit? I want to see Dom in a suit making these DC announcements. And now I notice you got the suit on and you're announcing stuff. When did you become that guy? When did Omar say, Dom, you're gonna do this?
It was less of that and just more so Omar is just doing way too much. He does not have enough time in a day to do something, with the exception of let me actually backtrack. We're lucky enough overall for the last year to now have DC in our context, something that we're both very grateful for. The folks over there have been nothing but amazing and receptive to all of our input and suggestions, and everybody else who has pitched in and also asked for input and suggestions to adding issues, or hey, could the design on this be changed? Could we add something else that might enhance this book? And Dustin Kitchens and the team that they have over there, Alex Gaylor, all the people who work on the collected editions, man, they are some amazing people. And since we've gotten that back contact, because again, like we just managed to say, hey, like we finally have at least some supplemental communication over at DC where we can actually make incremental changes and not just I'm talking to a person who might be connected to another person. So since then, again, like everything has just been exponentially rising, not only in responsibilities for me, but also responsibilities for Omar. He just doesn't have the time to do as much as he wants to because everybody's asking like, hey, could you do this? Could you do that? We still got postseason and a whole bunch of other shows that he wants to do and focus on top of, again, all the reading. And he asked me if I would be comfortable with doing the DC video saying, hey, this book just dropped. We already have all the information in. Go ahead and do it. And so since then, it's just been put on a suit, go behind the camera, smile, talk about the book and the reading order and everything else that comes along with it, with all the extras and paper information and everything else that comes along with the responsibilities of saying, hey, this book is out now. I really wish that we had exclusivity on some of those DC titles, but I am very, very grateful that we still get to talk about the books that come out in the way that they do.
Do you have I'll say this question for Omar too when I talk to him, but I know that Omar used to have a direct line with Marvel where he could pick up the phone and call somebody. Do you have that connection with DC where you guys could pick up the phone and talk to someone if you need to?
Omar does.
Or send him a text.
Omar does.
Oh, so Omar's got the contact information in his phone to say, text him. For example, this is just an example, a hypothetical. Mm-hmm. Say Omar wants to find out about a Legion of Superheroes omnibus. Okay, say he wants to find out about a Legion of Superheroes omnibus. Does he have a number in his phone where he could text and say, hey, are we getting a Legion of Superheroes Bronze Age omnibus in 27?
Man, that would be so cool.
Does he have a contact like that he could reach in his phone? Or
the communication doesn't work exactly in that way, but what I will say is that it is very nice to have people who, again, are very receptive in giving us the information that we need for books that are going to be in the catalog and other books that they're working on.
I mean, I think you've been one of the biggest proponents that are out there when it comes to DC Finest. You totally got the whole concept of DC Finest. The stuff that you and Curtis have done, I think, is fantastic. When you talk about DC Finest, the Finest Fridays, I think that stuff has been fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Does DC appreciate that? Do you ever get feedback on that stuff?
I used to work for my comic shop, the same comic shop that I talked to you earlier about, where I found out that these things existed and should I buy comics here or should I buy a Burger King sandwich? I worked for them for a year and a half, and one of the best times of me working at a particular establishment. My boss is also friends with, or my former boss anyways, he's very close friends with Jim Lee. He showed Jim Lee my channel and a Finest Fridays episode. And I got a chance to meet Jim Lee, where I got a couple of things signed, actually, if I can
Dude,
even
that's
show here.
awesome.
Yeah, man. I got Justice League Volume 1 Origin. I told him too, like, I just remember I told him I was 11 years old when I read this. And it's gotten to the point now where like some of the pages are like the binding is falling off. But I told him like this means a lot. And Jim then told me like, hey, your boss told me about how you worked for him all the way back in 2021, 2022. And he also said that he told me, I really appreciate the way that you're promoting our DC Finest line through the Finest Fridays or whatever episode that my boss showed him. And that to me was like, hey, my show is technically sponsored by Jim Lee. I can
That's
say
pretty
that.
Cool. That's pretty cool. You know, it had to be special to know that you're reaching voices that matter. You know what I mean? I want, and I do. I wonder about that. Does that feel as awesome as it would seem to? As an outsider, hearing that, I think, oh my God, if that were to happen to me, that would be awesome. Does it feel as awesome as I think it does?
I think I suffer from heavy imposter syndrome far too often, but it's also something that I'm not going to take for granted. Like, again, like, doesn't matter if it's doing the show with Curtis, which I guess for anybody who's listening here also watches my channel, we're going to be back this Friday to talk about the March releases. It's also like, it's not only that, it's also, I have a chance and an opportunity to hear from so many different creators. And I feel the same way too when a creator tells me about, I don't know, like for example, Philip Kennedy Johnson tells me about how he got original art from Riccardo Federici on a Superman panel. I told him like, this is one of my favorite moments in your Action Comics run. And then he tells me like this long story. And I'm over here like, I probably should not be hearing this like right now. Like somebody else should be in my spot. But it's also something that when I look at it, it's a feeling that I will never take granted, and it's something that I will always be thankful for, because again, anybody else could be in my position, but I'm here and I try not to take that lightly.
You've had some amazing interviews. I mean, you've talked to big names in comics. Do you get them yourself, or do those come from Omar, or how do you arrange these? Because I've never interviewed. I mean, I've interviewed a lot of famous people, a lot of famous people in my life. I've never interviewed, with the exception of, I guess you could say Kevin Smith, but the interview was about his movies. It wasn't about comics. But for you to get these, do you get them yourself, or has Omar gotten them and handed them to you, or how have you gotten these interviews with comic creators?
95% of the people that I've interviewed, I've reached out to myself. 5% are connections. It's not even just Omar. I actually have a friend in Malaysia, one of my best online buds. He has been friends with me since 2019, and he has a convention near him in Singapore, Comic-Con, that happens every single year in December. And he's also given me some contacts through there that some of the people that I've interviewed on my channel, like they're like that. He gave those contacts to me. I actually can call them friends. Like I have their phone number and stuff and whatnot. But almost all of the interviews that I've had on my channel were me reaching out and saying, hey, I really like your books. Do you want to talk about them? And again, I get imposter syndrome every single time I talk to them. But one thing that I always try to stress when I'm interviewing actually two things I want to stress out with every creator interview that I've had. The first one is, how can I make the viewers experience better? Because I think one thing that typically comes in from creator interviews on YouTube, and it's no shade to anybody who does this, I'm like, man, we got comic books. I want to show people the comic books that they're talking about.
Yes.
So I'm like, I need to make video animations. I need to make slideshows. I want to make this a viewer experience that when you watch an interview that I do, you're not going to forget the comic or whatever it is that they're talking about, that concept. I want that to stick in that viewer's head. The second thing that I will always try and stress on, and people aren't there for me. They're here for the other person that I'm talking to. And I had a very, very difficult time with this as a kid because I love talking. It's also partly why I'm here right now, but people are not there for me. My job as an interviewer is to allow that person the space, the mind, the frame of, I want to let them paint the picture of what it is they're talking about with me, guiding them to that particular space as best as I can. And I have been trying to do those two things and stand by those two ideals. As far as I've had my first creator interview with Jeremy Adams, who very, very amazing, very, very fun interview. And also one that I also probably will never forget, because that also led me to a lot of other interviews down the line. And it's something that I will always try and stress when I do those interviews.
I think I've had a conversation with James Tynan, but in having a conversation with him, it was just to figure out how to pronounce his name. But there would have been a perfect time then to ask him to let me do an interview, but I bailed out. I didn't ask him to do an interview. Now, let me say that I have interviewed extremely famous people. I played basketball with Barack Obama. I knew him. I interviewed Donald Trump. I've interviewed, you name it. I've interviewed so many, but I've never interviewed a comic creator. I think that for me, because I'm such a comic geek, I think it would be different. It would be different for me to ask a question to a comic creator, because I think I would actually get nervous, because that is what I consider a celebrity. Like, I interviewed the members of Kiss. I didn't consider, I like Kiss, but I didn't consider them really celebrities. I interviewed Van Halen. They really weren't celebrities to me. I knew who they were, but it was nobody's. To me, interviewing an actual if I interviewed Jeff Johns, I don't know if I'd be able to speak. I think it'd be, Have you ever develop a relationship outside of the interview with any of these people?
Yeah, they're like I mentioned earlier. It's like some of them I have their cell phone numbers. Some of them they have told me that their email is wide open to just chat and ask them questions.
And at your age, holy crap! Because people, we haven't said, but you're early 20s. I mean, just let people know. Dom is early 20s. He's not a 35-year-old man. This is a youngster we're talking to. Just because he's smart, don't age him. By the way, I'm paying attention to Dom, but I am seeing a lot of your questions, and because this question has come up quite a few times. Let me stress: if you guys think I have not badgered Dom off air on any of our solicit shows about Legion of Superheroes information, you're crazy. Every time we're together, I always say, hey, what kind of Legion of Superheroes omnibuses? What do we have coming up? And I got to be honest, I don't know if you signed an NDA or what, but Dom has never, and neither is Omar. They've never revealed to me. And by the way, I think they know. They've never revealed to me any information. And as it turned out, there was a Legion of Superheroes omnibus coming out, and they've known about it for a while, and neither one told me about the Mark Waid omnibus that ended up being announced. So you have never revealed anything to me when it comes to whether or not a Legion omnibus is coming out. And if people in the audience, if you think I did not ask, you're crazy. I ask every time,
every month. It's always, Dom, when are we gonna get some Legion of Superheroes in the energetic Ray type voice? Always the same thing.
And Dom has never revealed anything to me. But do you know things that you're not allowed to talk about? Do you know either DC Finest or Omnibus things that are coming out that you're not allowed to talk about?
Oh yeah, they got a lot of good stuff coming, man. I can't wait.
So you guys, you're privy to a lot of that stuff.
We are. We're very thankful for it, by the way. Again, like I mentioned, when we have these conversations, and not only with Marvel but with DC and some other publishers too, who also have stuff down the line that they want to publish or they want to print out, it's always something that I'm very, again, I'm grateful that I'm in the position to be able to know and understand that stuff. I also need to do it, I think, a little bit better at this. Omar is really good at teasing hints.
Yeah.
I'm really good, I think, at accidentally laying people astray into the abyss of the unknown in terms of the knowledge. But it's just a blessing to be able to figure out whatever it is down the line, so we can have a better understanding of some of these books that are coming out, that are stuff that we might do on Near Mint, or maybe on for my own in my case. It's something that, not like, it's only tens of people that know what these things that are coming out. But again, it's not something that I want to fadangle over someone, say, hey, it's not any of that. It's a blessing and a privilege to have this information at the ready, and to be able to curate that in ways that will help out other people, in whether it's actually them buying and experiencing it for themselves, or just giving them the thought and idea of don't worry about it, guys. They have plans for what this thing might be, even though we can't say what it is. There are things there in the pipeline that people will either be hyped up for, or can't wait to get their wallets out to go buy it.
I will ask the same question of Omar.
Sure.
But I'll ask you now. Have you had to sign any non-disclosure agreements, or is it just that you guys know if you reveal anything, then they will never tell you anything again? So is it something that you sign that prevents you from saying it, or is it just we can't say it, or they're never ever going to let us know what's happening again?
I've signed a couple of contracts.
Okay, so you've signed non-disclosure agreements. Damn. Yeah.
They're fun contracts to look at. It was nice because my friend, who actually is in law school, he's graduating next year. I've had him look at some of those contracts for me, so that I have what does this particular clause mean? Does this thing mean that I can't do this in this particular moment? Am I ceding up something? Am I not allowed to do something? And the back and forths between my friend and I on those email chains, they're fun, because I'm learning legal. I'm learning
non-disclosure agreements are pretty cool, aren't they? I've written jokes. I've written jokes for people, and so they pay you for the jokes, and then they also have you sign a non-disclosure agreement, so you don't reveal that I wrote this joke that they used on blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. So you're really not allowed to admit that stuff, and they are cool. I mean,
they are really cool.
It's really interesting. It's very interesting when you get those kind of things. So I didn't know if you guys actually had to sign something, or if it was a case of losing. That would mean you'd lose the privilege of getting it. I'll use DC as an example.
Sure.
Because I know Marvel's going through their stuff right now, but is the relationship that Near Mint has, you and Omar, with DC, is your relationship that of you guys saying, or them going to you to ask your opinion? They're planning their DC Finest,
mm-hmm.
and they are, and they're always saying, we got to decide what DC Finest we're gonna do. Maybe we'll do this or we'll do that. Are you in a position where you can go, what I would do is blah, where you could throw your opinion in and know that they're at least going to consider it?
Yeah, we have convinced DC to upgrade a couple of their books to different formats, or rewire titles. Where I mentioned this in one of the first announcements that I did when I suited up, and it was specifically for the Power Girl was supposed to be the Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti omnibus, just like they've been doing for the Harley Quinn, the 3 omnibus line for that, with the New 52 and Rebirth lines that those 2 creators have done. Omar said that though the Judd Winnick run especially has been out of print for a very long time. They did a complete collection of the 2009 run for Power, or 2007 run, sorry, for Power Girl. My years are getting mixed up and tied. So they've done stuff like that, but they haven't reprinted out the whole thing. And Omar said, let's expand this and make this as comprehensive. Because I know that a lot of people will probably be interested in reading Karen's return to the DCU proper from every single page that she's been in after Infinite Crisis. Mm-hmm. And getting to say something like that, where they're making this more comprehensive, or it's bigger, or we actually have this on set now. That has been something really cool to see, in that it's less so of influence and more so of they're very receptive and open to changing something if we think that there might be a better way to print or publish out some book that they might have had second thoughts on. And that, I think, is a really cool thing to see.
I think it's awesome. I think and at least Jess is going to buy one.
Oh, I know. I know. I
know. Because let's see, ChubbyRay buys everything, and Jess would buy Power Girl. So you're able to say, I at least know two guys that for sure are going to get it. Yeah. I just think it's awesome that DC will take your opinions. I think that's cool.
Yeah, and the adding of issues too. Like, for example, I was really adamant on the Red Robin compendium that's coming out, that's going to be matching the first Tim Drake Robin compendium that came out a couple of years ago. Now we're getting the second of that line coming in late December. I want to say it's coming out on the 22nd. They're doing a Red Robin compendium. For anybody who doesn't know, it's coming out, at least at the time that we're recording this, it's coming out on the 25th of August. And I looked at it and I was like, man, I want every single appearance of Tim Drake in this, like full appearance of Tim Drake after Batman, because the thing starts with Batman RIP tie-ins at the end of Nisie's Robin run. I would say issue 175 is where it picks up on, and it takes you through all the way to all of the Batman New Gotham stuff where Bruce is gone. And if anybody doesn't know, he gets set in time back in Final Crisis, where Darkseid shoots Omega beams at him, and Gotham has to pick up the pieces, so Dick Grayson takes over the mantle. And I was like, they don't have the Adventure Comics issue where Tim Drake and Connor Kent, because Connor Kent had also recently come back from the dead. Jeff Johnson, Francis Manapul pick up the pieces in Adventure, and he reunites with Tim Drake, one of the sweetest reunion moments that I've read in a comic book. That wasn't in there. And they also didn't have Gotham Gazette issues that sort of like were little teasers and previews after Bruce Wayne had died in Final Crisis. Stephanie Brown has some of those pages. It had early Jamie McKelvey art, I want to say. And those were little snippets of what Stephanie and Tim were going to do after the new Batman status quo was going to set in, with Dick Grayson as Batman, Stephanie Brown as Batgirl, and Tim Drake as Red Robin. And they said yes to all three of those issues. And that gave me a really good feeling inside of like, they're open and they're listening. And I think that's really cool.
Let me go. I'm going to go to our audience. If you type in a question for Dom, I will ask questions. I know people have been, but you guys know, the first hour of these roundtables is just a straight interview between me and the guest. If you put the questions in, I will highlight the questions and ask. So put them in now, because this is when we're going to start the comic portion of this show. Dom, who's your favorite Batman creative team? Who's your favorite? Like, who's your favorite Batman writer and artist? If you had to pick just one.
I had to pick one. Nostalgia wants me to say Snyder and Capullo because that's what I grew up with. But dude, I freaking love Jim Starlin and Jim Aparo on Batman. It's hard to beat the mid-late 80s creative team. I had just reread a lot of the Jim Starlin run through the Batman DC Finest, because as many probably are some awareness, Starlin was one of the main creators who took over the title after Crisis on Infinite Earths, and they didn't relaunch Batman They didn't relaunch Batman like they did with Superman, like they did with Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
They kept it
Batman's never done a relaunch after any events, right? It
always,
always
with the exception of
keeps
New
on
52,
keeping on.
right? Yeah, like New 52. The only time when they renumbered Detective Comics. Otherwise, it's just been, we're just gonna keep going. We're gonna keep pushing the line, and I freaking love how Starlin manages to make Batman feel like there's still a myth about the character, but the way that he incorporates villains, whether it's KG Beast, the Joker, the raw moments between him and Jason Todd, even it's just really difficult for me to say, like, I can't, how can I say not? Like, it feels, that era of Batman feels to me like Jim knew what he was doing with the character, and the difficult road that he made Bruce and Jason go through amidst all of the back and forth between that and the Brayfogle, Alan Grant, John Wagner run over on Detective. Late, like mid 80s, Batman speaks very highly to me, but I really do appreciate how how down to earth and sometimes even human, but he sometimes makes Batman.
I
In
think,
his
if
comics.
I was alive during all that time, and I remember how much people they hated Jason Todd, hated him. But I go back, like DC Finest Red Skies.
Yeah.
I go back and read that stuff, and it's like, oh my god, this is so good. And I haven't read all of DC Finest Death in the Family yet, but that stuff is so good. I find it hard to believe, and I was alive at that time, how much people didn't like it. You just, when you read it now, I think it holds up a lot better.
I agree. I did I did an overview, because as anybody probably knows, I do all the overviews on Your Mint Condition for the DC Finest line. Again, something that I'm also very grateful for. The main sticking point to me about the whole Jason Todd, whatever you want to call it, the brutal killing of this very young middle school boy who's trying to do his best in terms of the Robin life. Like, you're talking about him having unfortunate connections with Two-Face because of his dad. You're talking about him trying to get through as a schoolboy, even though, like, it feels like his life is a lot more complicated than Dick Grayson. I think Dick Grayson, yeah, I mean, his parents were killed in very much sort of the same-ish way like Bruce's parents were killed, but he's got this like very upbeat, emotional look, like highly emotional look at life. Jason feels more like a part tragedy, but he's still trying to do his best in all the situations that he's placed in. And to see all of that unfold for the 30 issues or so of Batman and the 30 issues or so of Detective Comics with Mike W. Barr, freaking amazing stuff, where he's also playing around with Two-Face and some of the different characters that are connected with Jason. I told myself, like, I don't know what the issue is. Like, this is a fantastic character that they are managing to mold, who's different from Dick Grayson in enough ways where he can actually stand out. Because honestly, had he been the same as Dick Grayson, like again, like a sort of like Dick Grayson 2.0, just managed to happen to have a different name, different backstory, and that's it, I don't know if fans would have killed him off. But the payoff in Death in the Family, reading through all of this era of Batman after Crisis of Infinite Earths, it hits harder to me now than maybe it probably would have for somebody living back in the day. But you get to see the growth of Jason as a character, and then all of a sudden, like, he tumbles into this place where he's never going to come back from, because you got to get the crowbar in.
I mean, his mother was a drug addict. You know, his parents were broken parents. Bruce Wayne he was a child of wealth, and his parents, although they were tragically killed, they had a nice story. Dick Grayson's parents, although they were tragically killed, there was a lot of love, and they had a nice story. Jason Todd came from just a broken and destroyed family. I always thought that was interesting, that a bunch of Gen X kids like myself paid to vote to kill him. oh my God, that was always bizarre. I really haven't reconciled with the
Yeah,
way that
yes.
people were voting to kill him.
And I think when you open up something like that to the general public, right, where it's like, hey, we finally get to have a voice, but it's also you get a shot to actually KO the guy. Why wouldn't you take a chance to do it, right? Like, is the company actually being truthful about are we going to kill him? Because again, like I'm reading these stories and I'm telling myself, like, Jason is one of the strongest characters that I've read in a Batman comic quite a while. And I'm talking about not Red Hood Jason. I'm talking about Robin 2 Jason, who's just trying to settle into a life that he didn't like. I don't think he wanted to steer the tiles off his Batmobile, man. I think the guy was just trying to make through a living. And you have this sort of
just a kid. He was just a kid with a broken family and a broken life. And look at. I'll give you an example here. Look at this. Look at this nice kid. He's just stealing wheels off. He's just stealing some wheels off the Batmobile. He just seems like a nice kid. And yet people voted to kill him. It's unbelievable.
Again, like you read all the stories, again, if it's Two-Face who's appearing in an issue, or if it's another villain like KGB, or even Deacon Blackfire in Batman the Cult, there's a calling that he has where there's still good inside him. There is a want of, I want to be able to help out people in need, which is what I'm asking for in my superhero comics, right? Like, you don't need to have them twisted all the time. And obviously, we have a very different Jason now, who unfortunately does look at life, I think, a very different way than other people. But I find this particular complicated version of the character to be the strongest. I know that for some people, I know that a lot of people like the post Judd Winnick Batman Jason Todd, or even I also know a lot of people at my comic shop who are big fans of the 2011 and 2016 Red Hood and the Outlaws runs, and more power to them. But mid-late 80s Jason Todd is where my heart hits hardest for the kid in this particular character.
And DC Finest is collecting it all. I mean, great for them. Let me get some of these questions. Dom, who is one comic creator you would want to interview, alive or dead, and why?
That's a great question, actually.
Yeah, very good question. Troy, good question, brother.
I've had the privilege of interviewing so many big like, if you would have told me that Mark Waid would be on my channel every single year for 2 months, like it's 6-month intervals twice a year, I would have said, man, you lying. But Wade has been one of my favorites to over, like his questions or his answers are quick. He's very, very easy to get a hold of and understand, like, oh, that's what's going through his brain. I think he's also PR trained to hell. If I had to interview somebody dead or alive, I think it would probably be, it's very generic answer, but I'm going to go with Jack Kirby. I don't think we have an industry without him. And I recently just went through the Etrigan the Demon DC Finest, and it's not my favorite Kirby thing, but man, I was like, the guy just seems to have all the fun and time in the world drawing all of these spread pages, drawing all of these like uniquely different creatures. You got Clarion who's thrown in. I want to understand like where that brain was working, like what makes him think about the storytelling beats, what makes him think about the process that he puts onto the pages, like where do you put a spread page in? How did you come up with stuff like the Avengers or the Fantastic Four, like this family of four that somehow manages to be fun and very, very down to earth, even though they didn't have get their powers on Earth. Like I want to understand like how he went through that. So I think if in any case, I'd probably pick Jack, the King.
Did you ask him questions to hear him shit talk Stan Lee? Or would you stay away from it?
No, I would want to understand. I think part of comic books and in terms of like asking creators about stuff is asking difficult questions.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need to answer it, but I do enjoy understanding the behinds of it all. Like what made you decide this character had to be, for example, I'm friends with John Layman, and the last time he was on my channel, he and I talked about all the stuff that he couldn't do on Titan, and he also talked about how he was fired from the book. I'm sure that it was probably not easy for him to answer some of the questions that I had, but I think it's also just as important to understand where other people are coming from and the reasons to why. And if you don't unearth whatever that thing is, as long as it's not completely sensitive information or something that they're uncomfortable talking about, I do think it is important to highlight stuff that you might not hear maybe the best thing of. And I think that's okay.
You don't have any problems asking a question like that.
No.
Here's Big Kiddo. Big Kiddo says, Dom, first off, huge fan and respect for all your balance. Was there a comic run that a majority seemed to love, but you weren't fond of?
I can remember being on Reddit and trashing Tom King's Batman run every single 2 weeks because that book was coming out bi-monthly. I was buying all the issues at my comic store, and I was just part of the machine that would ask, why on earth would Tom King do this? Years later, you're looking at a person who has tried to convince the DC to add 9 issues of a book that they weren't a fan. Keep in mind, I bought 8 issues of Heroes in Crisis. I didn't buy issue number 9. I bought 2 copies each of Heroes in Crisis issues 1 and 8, 1 through 8, both the A cover and the B cover. I think like if I had to choose, it'd just be that, and it's specifically for the at least the Batman portion of it. Something where I understood why there was such a big yearning and big love of a particular part of the fan base of it, but in college, this wasn't the Batman that I wanted to read. I had just come off, again, like reading through all of Scott Snyder's Batman as a preteen and as a teenager. I'm like, yeah, I want my Batman to feel like this larger than life god. Like, I think Scott Snyder should get a lot of credit for the Bat God example that we have in a lot of our books today. Like he's, I think, the godfather of it. So when I went to read Tom's run in singles, because I'm like, this is the first time I'm doing anything at a comic shop. Batman's at that point, he was one of my favorite characters. He still is, but even more so then than now. I wanted to see what this new creator could do, and I just was not a big fan of it.
Here, this is from See You Next Tuesday. Says, Dom, will you speak on or share your thoughts on Doomsday Clock?
I can. So Doomsday Clock was also one of those issues for me. Again, like going as a regular at my comic shop every single Wednesday. And I also, you're not going to believe this, Ray, I have every single cover of the 12 issue series, like all of the, like the first printings, second printings, third printings, if there were any, all the variant covers, because Gary Frank did all of the artwork on that book. Like nobody else did art, like, or any supporting art. I have all of those covers in my comic box. So that one speaks a lot to me because it was the first, I'm not going to call it an event, but it was the first series where I emotionally invested myself into something that was larger. Even if I knew at the end it wasn't going to reach the conclusion that it had set out to be, just because of how long that it took for that series. But I also had the pleasure of, because DC Universe, like I had mentioned earlier, they also had creator AMAs. They still do them. I don't participate in them anymore because I'm like, well, if I can interview the creator, why can't I just do that on my own? But when they used to do creator AMAs, one of the first people that they had on the service was Jeff Johns. Jeff Johns only answered like 15 questions, but he answered mine. And one of my questions was related to Doomsday Clock, and the other one was I can't remember. I think it was something to do with Superboy. I remember his answer, but I don't remember the exact question. And he told me, at least through the AMA, that it took him 7 times as long to script the book just because of the way that it was structured and because of the effects that it was supposed to have on the universe. The unfortunate part was it just took way too long. He was also the executive / president of the company at the time, dealing with all the movies and stuff. So I'm sure that he was busy on both ends. But that book was it's special to me because, again, of all the emotional investment I've put into it. But I'm also very blessed in the fact that when I was working at my comic shop, I remember when the Absolute Edition came out, right?
Oh, I love that. I love the Absolute Doomsday Clock.
So cool. But
Oh.
here's the thing. One of the people in my comic shop, he's a very, very hefty spender. He spends like $500 a week at the shop. He always asks me for my comic recommendations because I guess he really liked my recommendations. I don't know. He went over to the Absolute Doomsday Clock hardcover on the shelf. He's like, "Hey, could you talk to me about this book?" I gave him this like extremely glowing review of it, and I had to leave work early that day because it was my father's birthday. I clock out, and my boss goes, "Hey, before you leave, a customer bought something for you." He pulls out the Absolute, because he took out the Absolute Doomsday Clock off the shelf. And I was like, I don't know why he's doing that. Maybe he's trying to scan something on it. The person who I tried to convince to buy it had bought it for me.
Oh, how nice.
And I went home with a still wrapped and brand new copy of Doomsday Clock. So it's with all my absolutes now, but I am so grateful for who I don't know what prompted him to do that for me, but that I thought was nice
contagious. Gesture. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You had contagious passion. I know that I bought stuff for people, and it's because whatever they're talking about, it was contagious, and that's why it became important for the guy. So he said, "Let's get him. This kid probably can't afford this. Let's get it for him."
He also got me this for Christmas because this is the spider web cover or first printing of Amazing Spider-Man 55. Patrick Gleason, if anybody doesn't know, he's my favorite artist of all time. And I told him that I have no idea what prompted, but this was, of course, it was packed in a present. There were a couple of people at my comic shop who got me presents for Christmas. I opened it and it was here, and I'm like, why do I have this? Why did he gift me this? But I don't get slabs because I'm not that, again, broke college kid, but I thought this was really cool for him to gift to me. So
people gravitate towards you positively because of your passion. I think it's awesome, man. Hassam says, "Hey, Dom, what collected edition is your white whale if you have one?"
If I had, man,
what is your ultimate? I think mine's got to be mine's War of Kings Aftermath. Tell everybody, what is Dom's?
I don't know if I have a white whale because I typically don't try to get anything. You know what? Just because of the fact that I think it'd probably be Avengers JLA, the collector's edition, or now that they're called whatever, or whatever they decided, like, the slipcase. I think it looks really cool. The only reason I say it is the two things. One is that a lot of the things in my collection that I've bought, I paid it out from my own wallet, worked hard for them, and I'm not typically the guy to, I guess, like going hard on the aftermath market because I typically tell myself like, hey, this is probably going to be reprinted at some point, or maybe you can ask. I call him Father Omar. Maybe you're like, hey, Omar, this book looks really cool. Can I please get jokingly? I say this jokingly, but I'm also very thankful with everything that like comes out. So I don't know if I would say that I have a white whale, but if I were to have one, it'd probably be that Absolute JLA Avengers.
Oh, it is nice, man. It is really, really nice. I had a friend that was going through a divorce, and he needed money, and he also had Absolute JLA Avengers, and I got it for a nice price.
Nice.
So I hate to say thank God for his ex-wife, but that's why the guy would have never sold it, except he was going through a rough divorce. And oh well.
I'm sorry for that guy, man. But
yeah, I know. Every day I think about it. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry that he went through that. But I'm also glad that I got the book. Big Kittle says, you change lives with a comic book character and live in their universe. Who do you choose? Oh, man. Who would you choose to change lives with? Which comic book character?
You know what? Just because I want the pain, I'd probably pick Cyclops. I'd probably pick Cyclops or Daredevil, I think, as my two. The reason I say it is maybe I will admittedly say that I have a crush on characters who have impairments with vision. I think that's just my thing. Like as a kid, I always thought like, you know what, man, this Cyclops guy, even though again I wasn't that big of an X-Men fan then, I was like, he's got a really, really nice figure. I like the way he looks, you know?
So you like the way that Cyclops looked?
I did as a kid, yeah.
That's the guy.
Yeah. And he's got a lot of pain thrown at him,
And
but you know what? That's okay. You get to lead the X-Men.
I think he's one of the more interesting characters. And am I wrong? I said the other day when I did a review of Uncanny X-Men by Gillen, I think Kieran Gillen writes Cyclops better than anyone. Am I wrong? I think the way he writes Cyclops is so good. Of course, everybody writes Cyclops good, but yeah. I think Gillen really writes Cyclops exceptionally.
Listen, man, the descent into like half villainy that Gillen puts the character through, I think is actually quite a phenomenal tragic tale and story that will get anybody out of their seats jumping. I know that some Cyclops fans have issues with, like, it's weird because again, like fandom will bring you to places. I just remember being a part of the X fandom back in the COVID pandemic days and talking to people about like, hey, which ones do you like? Which ones do you not like? Yeah, man. So yeah, Scott really is just that guy. And one thing that I always will appreciate about his character is that everything is thrown as, I think, very much in the same way as you can with like a lot of other X-Men. Mm-hmm. Something compelling about the pain that he goes through. And as somebody who does have impaired vision too, like it's something that I can also gravitate to and relate.
JD Schlageter says, Dom, what are your favorite independent comics?
I really love Manhattan Projects, man. Manhattan Projects, just because like I'm a very weird nerd for history. It's weird because you look at me and like you talk about all the science stuff. Dude, I freaking love I love alternate histories. I love world history. I love US history. That book speaks to me in ways that my science brain just goes like, you know what? This is a perfect blend and mix of Robert Oppenheimer meets the wackiest science fiction that you can tell. I think for my other, like if I were to throw in two more independent comics or creator owned titles, oh man, I love Kill or Be Killed, man. That book hits so much closer to home, especially like I reread it a couple of years ago. And it hits harder than the first time I read it just because I don't want to get too much into it with just all the stuff that a lot of people are going through. It feels more surreal now than it did when I first read it back in college or for early stages in college anyways. And then I think if I had to pick for, just because it's coming out now, it's my number 3. I also really like the art and all the stuff that they're doing with the book. I really like Radiant Black. Feels like a scary.
I love Radiant Black. I think it's such a fun superhero comic. I like Kyle Higgins a lot.
Yeah. So I think those would be my 3, but definitely top 2. Yeah, Manhattan Projects and Kill or Be Killed in very uniquely different ways.
Here's a question from Rand who says, what DC Comics and Marvel comic crossover would you like to see next?
It feels very easy to say, like, we need to see the X-Men and Teen Titans do something again. I remember when, again, like going back to my early days at the shop, one of the person who I did the podcast with, he was working that day. He pulled out, he said, like, I know what you should get, Dom. I'm like, what do you mean you know what you should get, what I should get? He went to our back issue bin, pulled out the copy of X-Men Teen Titans that they had, $10 or whatever for the back issue, put in my hand and said, you are not leaving without this today. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm not leaving without this today. It would be really nice to see those characters all team up again. Again, it's a very safe answer, but there's just something about that I love from those guys. Selfishly, I would want to see Luke Cage and Black Lightning team up. I think that actually be pretty cool. We need to get some Hell's Kitchen thrown in there, man. I need more Hell's Kitchen, like doing crossovers with some of the DC characters. But I think that would be really cool to do.
I'd like to see those two personalities clash. That would be
Yeah.
fun. Dom, how much do you read as an average every day, and how do you read omnibuses? We know where I don't read omnibuses, guys. I do not read omnibuses on the toilet. Dom, what about you? How much do you read every day, and how do you read your omnibuses?
I always try, if I know I can't, but I always try and knock one of these DC finest out in the span of 3 days at max. Sometimes I do get them early, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I have read the material before. So, for example, again, like with Death in the Family, I've read a majority of this material before. Like I've read The Cult, I've read some of the lead ups to Death in the Family. I've also read most of the Norm Brayfogle and Alan Grant run on Detective Comics, so it's stuff I'm already familiar with. But for some of these books that take like the Silver Age titles, man, I will be up at 1 or 2 a.m. reading some extras just because I'm like, you know what, man, I need to make sure that I read these so I don't look like an idiot on YouTube. I feel really bad if I don't have all of the adage and context of some of these stories, and I always try to make sure that all of my bases are covered when it comes to all of this information. So it's always a span of like at least 700 pages in the span of a week. And how do I read my omnis? This table actually sets. So I have a table right here. That's how I'm talking in front of you guys or whatever. I sometimes will read it here, like right in front of me. Sometimes I'll have the omnibus there. I also got a sitting desk that or like one of those like portable desks that my cousin gifted to me back 3 years ago for the holidays. And I've been using that to read my omnis ever since, at least when I'm outside of my room. If I'm inside my room, I have a Bulbasaur plushie that I use as a stand for my omnibus.
That's awesome, man. Here I've got to know you from near mint condition, and how do I'm trying to form. All right, I'm jealous of your ability to retain things that you read. I am incredibly jealous of Omar and his ability to retain things that he reads. Crisis. Oh my God. Just the way that Crisis and Omar and your brain works. Who are you jealous of? Like who are you like when someone says something and you go, "Oh my God, is there anyone that you're jealous of, like the way they retain things?" Or is it just me because I feel like I don't retain anything?
I am actually jealous that Omar somehow manages to juggle all of these different things and doesn't like lose. I don't know what it's called, man, but he just has the cycle set.
When he goes, "Oh no, that happened in X-Men 143," I'll be like, "How in the hell do you remember that?" I wish I had that ability that they have, and you have, but you have it too. You have that ability to remember this happened, and now to find out you weren't even physically holding the issue, you read it digitally. Now to find that out, it's unbelievable how you do that. I mean, I am so jealous of that. So you are jealous a little bit of Omar, you're saying?
I'm jealous of Omar. I'm jealous of my two friends. Yes, I mean, I'm jealous of Omar and Crisis. Like, there's no way to say that I'm not. I will also add to I guess your fascination, if you want to call it that. There's something in me where maybe this is just because elementary and middle school people were always asking me to study with them because like, hey, you're the guy who gets good grades and we need help too. So I feel like it's lessened as the years have moved on. But I mean, it's difficult, man, because I have to remember these things when I make the videos. I have to remember these things when I put stuff on Sierra.com or if I'm doing it on my own benefit. On top of that, I'm taking 18 units this semester I still have a couple of projects due before finals start, and I have to retain all of that. I'm.
And
I
it's
don't know. Go ahead, please.
and it's poll season.
It's poll season, so it's just like all of these things stacking up on top of another. I think the one thing that this is a for sure, and I've been open with it. One thing that definitely helps is that I am on the spectrum, and that if I do have an inkling to something, and I'm like, man, I read this, whatever that thing looks like, I'm like, yeah, I remember it because I just read that thing, and my brain implanted it into my system, like it's a part of me now.
I wish I had that. Oh,
I think that's like 80% of it. The other 20% is like actually like me going down and like, oh wait, yeah, that did happen. But a lot of it is the autism. A lot of it is me being on the spectrum.
JC says, sorry if I asked this yesterday, but I had to leave early, Ray. What are your thoughts on Paramount buying Warner Brothers and the future of DC Comics? And Dom, please chime in on this also. What do you think about Warner Brothers being bought by Paramount? Will there be an effect?
On the comics industry, I don't think it's going to be. I mean, considering all the money that they're making now, I don't think that's going to be an issue for them. What I am very weary of, and this is less about the Paramount buying out Warner Brothers or that deal, and just more so like more of these conglomerates co-joining to create bigger and bigger soul crushers. I'm not. If there's anything that I've learned in world history is that monopolies and people who try to smush things together to crush other entities, whatever that looks like. I'm just coming off like conceptually here rather than with specifics. They've never ended in a good spot for that particular conglomerate or for the people that serve whatever, because everybody is trying to rush to make as much profit as much as possible. And I think the less that we have of that mentality and mindset, I think the better we are going to be as a society. Again, I'm just spitballing conceptually here. I don't want to really get too deep into specifics, but I hope that for everybody involved, that there are less of these mergers.
Yeah.
Or bigger companies buying out smaller ones, and more so like, hey, you know what? We're comfortable with it, or like we can continue to move along without needing to look for somebody else's hands to get a couple of $1 million on our paychecks.
I understand that Paramount wants to keep the IP. They want to make the movies and make the money from the movies. So they can't just, they're not going to stop making comics. However, I am worried about Paramount's debt structure. They're having to take so much money and so much debt on to make this purchase. I wonder if we're not going to end up with them owning it and immediately doing layoffs and cutting big parts of Warner Brothers. And I wonder how that will hurt DC. I mean, we've seen Marvel just go through this where they had to lay off a bunch of people, and we see how it's affected morale and things like that. And I know that DC went through this within the last 20 years.
This happened during COVID. Yeah. When AT&T, the whole thing with AT&T.
Within the last decade. Yeah. And I don't think we don't want to see that happen again. And right now DC is on a great run. It would suck to see their new owners come in and automatically cut them just because of their debt structure. So I hope that doesn't happen, but that is a concern. You know what I mean? That is something, that is something that I worry about. Dom, with all the books that you review for Omar, do you get to keep them for free?
Yeah, they're in my collection. That's one of the nicest things about working for Near Mint Condition is that Omar has taken very good care of me in the last 2 years. So I could have asked for a better boss. I literally could not.
Pay for your DC Finest?
I'm very lucky to be in a position where I get comp copies.
That's awesome. Well, you're actually having to read the books and do a review. I would hope you get them for free.
Yeah, that's been nice. I mean, it was a very I wouldn't say like difficult pitch, but the meeting was a very, 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 it was a fun meeting, and the logistics of it was actually fun to run through. So I'm happy that it all worked out.
Mario says, ChubbyRay and Dom of X, how many DC Finest paperbacks do you have in total, and which one is your favorite? What do you think, Dom?
I have every single DC Finest that's come out. In fact, I
What
actually
is
have
your
the
favorite?
I have the one that I'm going to be reviewing hopefully at some point this week, which is the Joker DC Finest.
Mm-hmm.
Nice thick stack and collection there. If I were to pick my favorite of the bunch, because I recently did a show with Cody where I talked about my top 5 most, like the ones that you need to have on your shelf. It did not end up in my top 5, but it would be my favorite if I had to pick amongst any of them. It'd be the Batman, the Killing Joke, and Other Stories DC Finest. Like I mentioned earlier, it's got the great KGB story in it. It's got the Killing Joke. But what it also does have is the entire Son of the Demon original graphic novel by Dennis O'Neil. And it's one of my favorite stories. I love the wispiness of the book, and I love the tragedy of the book too. So if I had to pick any, I love, like, here's the thing. I love like 80% of the stuff that they have printed out. Some of them I have not been the biggest fan of, even if I see some of the positives in the stories. But if I were to pick one, it'd be the Batman, Killing Joke, and Other Stories DC Finest.
I love DC Finest. Oh my god, my favorite's Legion of Superheroes. In fact, I wish I was speaking to someone who knew if DC Finest will be releasing any more Legion of Superheroes books in like next year. I'm just wondering.
Um,
I mean, I can guess that they are, but I wouldn't know for sure. If only I knew someone who knew.
I know whoever would that would be.
I don't know. I don't know. Dom, what do you think is the most underrated DC Finest? Oh, well, most underrated. This is good.
I really like that War collection that came out a couple of months ago.
Oh, I just got that. I just got the Hemrid. I just got it.
Man, that freaking DC Finest made me care about a tree. I didn't even know that a War story could do that to you, but that DC Finest did a number on me emotionally. So I'd pick War.
I love the 0 Hour. I think the 0 Hour stuff, both of the 0 Hour DC Finest are really good. And the Crisis one, they're putting out what, 2 more volumes this year?
Yeah,
of Crisis on Infinite Earths?
2 and 3.
Oh man, I do love the event stuff. Dom, when you read, do you have a favorite place to read? Do you have something in the background like music, or do you have to have silence?
I do have a favorite place to read, and it typically is, it's in the studio that I'm in right now, because I can actually read through stuff without dozing off, and I actually am forced to soak in the information. I've realized that sometimes, like if I'm on my bed, I'll be easily distracted by something else that isn't the book that I'm reading, but I really do like the studio that I have in my office that gives me the environment to be able to soak information in. I will always put something Nintendo music related on. I used to listen to a lot of classical music when I first started reading comics. Dude, I kid you not, like we have an old reader, new reader later today, and they're going to be talking about Morrison's Batman Omnibus Volume 1. So everything from Batman and Son and 655 all the way up until the Time and the Batman. So we have all of that in those 683, and I cannot separate Morrison's Batman from the entirety of Mozart's Requiem. Because that's what I was listening to when I first read the book digitally, like 8 years ago.
See, I don't put anything on in the background when I read. I like the silence. It distracts me to have stuff on in the background.
I get it. Well, that's why I can't listen to like war. Like I know that some of the creators I've interviewed, I've asked them like, "Hey, what music do you listen to?" Some of them like listen to like a lot of songs with words. I need something lighter, like more like instrumental and chill, which is again why I listened to classical music when I first started, but now it's just Nintendo music. Like I'll put songs on from a particular franchise, whether it's Mario, whether it's Zelda, Pokemon. I've even thrown in Pikmin ones. I read Pikmin, or I listened to Pikmin when I was reading Ryan North's and Erica Henderson's The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Somehow fit. I don't know how, but it somehow fit. So I've had an evolution with it, but I can't have words in my music. They need to be mainly instrumental.
I don't know how you guys do that. I don't know how you do it. Frederico says, Dom, let me tell you something. No matter how far you get in life and no matter how successful you will be, the imposter syndrome will always be there to keep you grounded.
It's not bad advice, but again, like I think the way that I'm just trying to, again, taking things in stride, just being thankful for the position I'm at, to have made so many friends like you and other people in our community. Again, like it's something that I don't know if I like what I did to get into this spot, but I'm very happy that I'm in this position right now to be able to talk about comics in the way that I am doing it.
Dom, if you had 2 minutes with the heads of DC, what would you pitch first? By the way, he has talked to the head of DC. He had a communication with Jim Lee, but go ahead. What would you pitch?
What do I pitch to Jim?
Yes.
I would tell them that we need 5 not 1, not 2. We need 5 Teen Titans centric titles. I don't care like what different, like reiterate them on different, like you've had so many different subsets of other teams like the JLA. Why can't you do that for Titans? They've got really cool, strong characters, both physically and in the literature aspect. Why can't you do that for them, man? I would tell him, we need 5 different books. Give us a main team. Give us a Teen Titans team for characters who are trying to keep on that legacy, or for younger characters. Give us a covert ops team that can do something on the sidelines. Give us a like classroom book. Like give us that like a random slice of life anthology book that we can have following different particular sets of Titans. And the 5th book would be a once every 4 months. Hey, like this is a catch up, but we're doing something big with the team, or like an overall book that keeps everybody in line. That's what I would do.
There you go. Not bad. I like Nightwing.
Yeah.
Wally West.
Sure.
Arsenal.
Sure.
Wonder Girl. Aqualad, or whatever he's calling himself now. That's my Cyclops. That's my Titans. And I think we need a Titans Rebirth omnibus. That's just me.
We do need to like, I'm working on something with Omar and Crisis related to Titans, so I'd keep your eye out on it.
Love it. Let's see. I'm trying to get more of these questions. Give me what omnibus specifically are you looking forward to in 2026?
I just did a video on the. So for anybody who also doesn't know, every single year for the last 2 years, I've been doing recaps of all the catalog. I go over every single book in detail. Some of my most fun moments recording, but the build up, because I have to design the animations and slides, that part isn't fun, but everything else is fun. If I can pick 2, it would be Legion by Wade, because that was my first Legion.
Yes.
Shout out to DC Universe for having all of that run.
And yet available. You kept it, even though how long have you known about that, by the way?
I plead the 5th.
Oh. I'm just wondering how many times I asked you knew about it and didn't tell me.
Oh, I know. But I'm beholden to the makers of my the words that I can say. That's what I'll say. And then Detective Comics by Ram V, because it is my favorite Batman run of the last 15 years. So those would be my 2.
There you go. I like that. I'm looking forward to both of them. I'm also looking forward to the Messiah trilogy.
Yeah.
And I New Avengers. I love Bendis' New Avengers. I can't wait for New Avengers to come out. And then Nightwing Volume 2. Oh my God, I love Tom Taylor's Nightwing. It's fantastic.
I know you do.
Somebody asked earlier, Paolo asked if you were allowed to reveal why John Layman was fired from Titans, or if that's something that you have to keep to yourself.
Oh, no, we talked about it's in my interview.
You go back and watch the interview that Dom did with you do discuss it. Phenomenal AC says Bronze Age Batman is my most anticipated omnibus this year. Oh yeah.
Yeah, man, I can't wait for that Omni. And for people who are also thinking about picking up the restructured Absolute Batman by Neil Adams, Volume 1, which goes from the years 67 to 70. The nice thing about Batman in Bronze Age is we're getting three different formats for essentially the same ish types of issues. So you have the Absolute, you have the Omnibus, and then you have the DC Finest that's also going to be collecting that material too. I'm going to be reading it in the DC Finest because that's the format I read it in, but I'm so happy that they're not only doing it through one channel, but they're doing it in multiple at the same time, which I think gives people opportunities to not only buy it, but I've talked about this when we did when I made the announcement for the Legends DC Finest, and also when we did the recap on the show. DC is doing their mapping in books in such a way where you are now incentivized to dip into more than one format. So for Legends, the Omnibus is specifically only going to have the books with the markers on the top or the headers where it says Legends and then part whatever it might be. And then the extras are going to be, hey, we have this was supposed to be Crisis 2, but this is how John Byrne and everybody else decided, let's not do the Crisis 2, let's do a book called Legends. The DC Finest is going to have the actual, not like the true, I guess, reading, like it is going to be the true reading order, but the way that it differentiates is that it will also have issues that don't have that Legends banner on the single issues, but also just happen and manage to be Legends tie-ins, like Hawkman issues 19 and 20, for example, are going to be in that DC Finest Legends trade paperback, but it won't be in the Omnibus. We're also getting the last page where Darkseid shows up in Crisis on Infinite Earths 12 in that DC Finest Legends Part 1 trade paperback, but you won't be getting that in the Omnibus. So just to see it in two separate ways with positives on collecting it both, I think it's just a really cool thing that DC has been doing for the last 2 years or now or so. And I really want them to keep on doing it, man, because it's awesome stuff.
Well, you look at Jeff Johns' Green Lantern omnibus, which I think is one of the greatest omnibuses we've ever seen. If you look, it's right there. There's my Jeff Johns Green Lantern omnibus, volume 1, 2, and 3. But the Green Lantern Rebirth Compendium came out, and it includes so much more. It's got the Ion stuff. It's got the Guy Gardner stuff. And that they are mapped differently and include more things. I think that's great that they're incentivizing us to not only have the omnibus, but go ahead and buy the compendiums too. By the way, when are we going to get volume 3 of that Green Lantern compendium?
I hope it's soon.
You hope soon, but you don't know anything?
I didn't say that.
Okay. So you do know, but you just can't say.
I really hope that you guys will get to see it soon at some point.
Do you guys see what I go through when I do those solicit shows and we're backstage? This is the crap I go through. Oh my God. What's going to be Dom's number 1 in the DC and the Tiger Eyes DC Omnibus poll? Mine's going to be Legion Bronze Age. What's going to be your number 1?
It's actually probably going to be Stephanie Brown Bagrill, but we'll see. Because I'm going to be hosting the show or like co-hosting the show, and I will have a lot of thoughts on the books that are in the poll. So
have they been mapped yet? Or are they still are you guys?
Oh no, we're just getting to the finalized stage of actually putting it on Google Forms.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I am so, you know what? I will, on the night of that broadcast, I'm gonna not do I have this show scheduled. I'm moving this show up so I can sit and watch that broadcast and keep notes. I'm such a geek. Oh my God. It's very sad. Who's been doing all the mapping? Is it Crisis, Tiger Eyes, Taylor, Omar? Are you doing any mapping?
Yeah, I'm helping out. This is like DC has been like Marvel, like that's those guys' expertises, but somebody's got to toss it, like give people the information and scoops on what these are. And I hope just hope like last year I'll be able to tell people like, yeah, this is what you're voting for. So
I just did my top 10 DC Omnibus wants. My honorable mention, by the way, was Flash Bronze Age.
But we already have
Trial of Flash and
okay. I want that Iris
going to the future, and I want all that stuff. all that Bronze Age. We don't have it. The Flash has got everything else, but
No, well, we had the first DC Finest Bronze Age come out earlier this year.
yeah, the Fastest Man.
Yeah.
What is it? I
Fastest
know
Man
there's
Down.
that one. That's early.
But you want to get to the volumes after.
I want to get like the 250 to 350 stuff. You know what I mean? That was the stuff like that was the stuff when I was in middle school. You know what I mean? That's when that stuff was coming out. That's really good stuff. I'd love to see that. All right, let me get. We're just about out of time, Dom. Frederico says, Dom, what would be the top 3 omnibuses you would love to see in 2027? Yeah, this is not. We're not asking you for information. He's just asking, what would you like to see? What would be your 3 biggest wants? Whether it's coming out or not, what would be your biggest wants?
Biggest wants, Devin Grayson Titans, believe it or not. I really want the 1999 run and onwards that has never been restored or fully collected. I really want that out in omnibus. I think it's actually a big shame that DC has only managed to do the New Teen Titans omnibus volumes, and then we got Johns and then Taylor and like Bronze Age, Silver Age, and that's it. We have such a rich history of the characters, like all throughout like the late 80s into the 90s, that there are some people who are like, oh, there's only like one good Titans run out there, right? It's like, no, there's a lot of great ones, just like X-Men. So I would say Titans by Devin Grayson would be number 1 on that list. I think number 2 would be, I'd love to see them do an entire omnibus of Stephanie Brown's time as Batgirl. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. And get a leg up on Tim too, because I want selfishly, I want to see Stephanie get in an oversized format before Tim Drake does. I love both. By the way, I love both the characters. I'm just saying this as a fan of Stephanie Brown. And I think my 3rd pick for omnibus, if I had to selfishly choose, let me get Cassandra Cain, Batgirl, and omnibus too. I think that would be really cool to see. Yeah. So those 3.
By the way, the new Cassandra Cain stuff written by Brown Ball is so good.
Good stuff.
Oh my God, it's so good.
So 1999 Batgirl, 2009 Batgirl, and 1999 Teen Titans.
Did I say? And by the way, forgive me if I said Cyclops, one of my favorite teams.
You did say Cyclops. He meant, yeah.
Oh, I meant Cyborg. Please don't think less of me, people. Please, people. How dare you think that I? Obviously, I was misspoke. I was misspoken. Come on. I'm not an imbecile. Come on. I just got talking. I got excited and got to talking fast. So please forgive me. I don't want you thinking I'm some kind of idiot. Oh, anyway, listen, Tom, I've had a blast, man.
I've had a
blast. This has been a lot of fun. I thank you for coming on. You answered all the questions. I'm very impressed with that. And thank you so much for joining me for Roundtable. I hope the audience enjoyed it as much as I did, because it was a lot of fun.
Same here. And if summer's coming and you ever need a guest to do whatever, and if I'm free.
I love it. And if you ever get news of any Legion of Superheroes titles and you're bursting at the seams that you have to tell someone, but you want someone that's going to keep their mouth shut, I just want you to know your boy ChubbyRay is here. Your boy ChubbyRay is sitting right here, and I would keep it to myself.
I promise
if you ever get a chance to talk to DC about DC Finest or Omnibus Selections, please remember your boy ChubbyRay, and to say Legion of Superheroes should be right there at the top. I'm just putting it out there.
Long live the Legion. Thank you for having me, Ray. And thank you to everybody who's watched.
Yeah, it was fun. I appreciate it, buddy. You guys give my hands. Dom of X. Awesome. Later, Dom.
Have a good one, guys.
And let's wrap the show. I want to thank Dom. He's awesome, man. It was a really fun interview. He was great. Galandazzi says, thank you, Ray. Thank you, Dom of X. He was great. Dom is awesome. Hope everything works for you. Yeah, he's awesome. Look at this. All these people are, boy, you're all praising Dom. What a freaking stream. So much fun. This has been awesome. I love it. Yeah, this is a good time, guys. And I want to thank Dom. It was a lot of fun. Listen, tomorrow, guys, tomorrow is going to be the Patreon giveaway. Tomorrow we're giving away the first Patreon book. If you go to ChubbyRayComics.com, ChubbyRayComics.com, you can see the giveaway for this book, Daredevil, Concrete Jungle. We're giving it away tomorrow. Tomorrow, Thunder is going to take all the names of all the commenters and put them on a spinning wheel, all right? And then we're going to spin Elimination Wheel tomorrow. Elimination Wheel, that's when we will give it away. So go to ChubbyRayComics.com, Patreon, and comment. All right? Then we're going to do the spinning wheel. Now, after we do the spinning wheel, then we're going to start. Then we're going to set up the Rice Krispie Cup, because starting tomorrow, we are going to start getting entries to win Spectacular Spider-Man by J.M. DeMatteis. Spectacular Spider-Man by J.M. DeMatteis. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to start getting entries for this. This will be tomorrow as well. All right. And by the way, speaking of omnibuses, I'm also on our Discord. I have the Fall of the Mutants omnibus. I'm going to put this up on our Discord for sale if anybody's interested. If anybody's interested in this, let me know. I'm going to sell this on our Discord. All right. So I just figured I'd put some stuff out there. And if anybody has any last second questions, please get them in now, because we're just about to wrap up. And I really had fun tonight. I like Dom a lot. He's a great, as you guys can see why I like him. He's a great guy. Yeah, I see. Ginger says, Ray, I gotta say it's awesome that you're live. So listen, I love doing my live broadcast. It makes me very happy. I could talk about comics 7 days a week, guys. I just love it. Hashtag Trash Can Fam. Are we doing any giveaways tonight? No giveaways tonight. I'm saving everything for tomorrow. Ray, here's my pitch for the next Marvel DC crossover. The Maker and Pariah are trapped in an elevator in either Avengers Tower or the Justice League Watchtower. Oh, I would be interested in that. But the Maker, I think the Maker is so cool, man. The Maker would not be trapped in an elevator. Would never happen. Monty Data says, what are you reading tonight? Right after this, I got to record. I'm recording my Flash reading order video. And then I promised my wife we'd watch Daredevil. My wife loves the Daredevil TV series, so we're watching that tonight right after I get done recording my video. All right, that's what I'm doing tonight. LP says, Ray, good work, dude. Yeah, no, I love Dom, which is why I had such a treat interviewing him. It was a lot of fun, man. Let's see, any other questions or Flash reading order? Can't wait. Oh, awesome, buddy. I'm glad you like it. Awesome. It's going to be a lot. I think you guys are going to like it because I have everything, and it's going to be the post-crisis reading order of Flash. So all the Wally West stuff, then the Barry Allen Rebirth stuff, and all collected editions. And it's all stuff that is available. That'll be what's on the video. All right, guys, let's wrap it up then. I thank you so much for watching. It was awesome. I want to thank Dom. He was great. And thanks to all you guys for coming in and checking it out. Remember, Roundtable happens every Tuesday. Every Tuesday, we're going to have guests. I saw Samantha was in. Samantha, I want you to be a guest on Roundtable. Let's connect and get a date scheduled for you. All right, coming up, I've got a Cosmic Collector is going to do it. I'm going to talk to him. Dominic from Comic Book Report, he'll be on. Day is going to be on. Omar's doing it June 2nd that's when I get the GOAT, Omar. I'm just trying to get great comic content creators to interview. I love it. All right, guys. Can't wait. Have a great night, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be live at 5 p.m. Central Time. 5 p.m. Central Time with Chubby Ray Comics Live. With all our giveaways, we're going to start taking entries for the Spectacular Spider-Man, and we're giving away the Daredevil tomorrow. Go on Patreon and get your comment in there, okay? Federico says, thank you, Ray, and very special guest, Dom. I'm always looking forward to your videos. Thank you, brother. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody, and I'll see you then. Bye. Hey, by the way, Chester